Good evening, friends, and welcome to the official YouTube channel of VS Strategic Business Consulting. In our series, In Conversation with a Thought Leader, today, our speaker and our guest is an eminent senior leadership coach. He's a CEO coach, has trained many senior leaders, CEOs, and board of directors of many organizations in being able to identify their purpose and work towards it. It's been instrumental in coaching and advising some of the senior leaders within the business fraternity, where the results were evident. The organizations grew by multi-folds, be it in terms of their market capitalization or their revenue and their profitability. So today, in this session, we would be discussing with the man Hariprasad Menon, is a senior leadership and a CEO coach, who is also the CEO of Grid International India, and learning about the importance of coaching and how it helps the organization and senior leaders in being able to perform significantly much better. So let's welcome Mr. Hariprasad Menon. Welcome, Hari. Very good evening, and thanks a lot for accepting my invite to be part of this series in conversation with a thought leader. It's really, honor to have you in this series. Thank you. Thanks a ton, Hari. I would request you to probably, take some time and, giving your point of view about the series and its relevance before we commence the actual session.
Thank you, Venkat. It's nice to connect with you after a very long time, actually.
And 2 years, 8 months precisely.
That's great, yeah. And I when you requested me for this session, and I was actually going through some of your earlier episodes. And I found it quite, relevant to people, because you're talking about, specifically talking about leadership. Now for a lot of people, leadership is mostly, definitions of designation or authority or power. Yeah, but leadership is not any of that. It's an attitude. Leadership is a philosophy. Yeah, so you could have leadership exhibited by a 10-year-old, 12-year-old in his space. For example, in let's say a wedding is happening, and this 10-year-old is given the job of let's say serving a soft drink to all the guests. Now, his ability to do that very clearly, without hiccups, and he will do it. He or she will do it. So he'll make sure that every guest is received and given a glass of juice. That's leadership. Yeah, so you have an office boy doing his job perfectly. You have a pantry support doing his job perfectly. A visitor walks in, provides coffee. That's leadership. So when I saw this episode talking about leadership, I was quite quite keen to join you, because I thought it just helps us to share another perspective of leadership. Because I coach a lot of leaders, so I was happy to be here. I personally think it's quite relevant for anybody listening in or viewing in, to be able to get a perspective of leadership other than the definition of power and authority and hierarchy and so on.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It's because this coming from you is certainly a blessing. I would certainly say that. Okay. So starting the series with my first question, right? Honey, you've been a coach. You have advised, coached many senior leaders, CEOs, and helped them so that they identify their purpose, and also help them in how to approach and achieve that purpose, right? I'm very keen to understand what is your purpose and how did you approach in achieving that, or in the process of achieving it? Could you please elaborate that, probably giving one or two instances for us to understand that?
So the first arrow is at the guest, is it? Yeah, but it's an interesting question, because you speak about purpose, and that's something that I work with in all my clients. But we'll get to that later. As far as my purpose and how did I get here. I was in employment for about 15 years or so, say from 85 to 2000. Everything in the IT industry. So I used to work with the marquee brands of those times. I worked with Compaq, I worked with IBM, I worked with Oracle. In those days, it used to be called iFlex, and etc. etc. All of it in business development and everything. I've led organizations, I've led startups, I've led teams, regions, etc. So sometime around 2000, this thing was not getting exciting for me. This whole employment thing, because I realized that whichever organization hired me, or I choose to move on, realized that end of the day I was doing exactly the same thing but a different business card. It's the same same client. So when I decided to move on, one of the things I did not want to do, very clearly, was to set up an altar business. An altar business is, a lot of people who want to quit and move on, they tend to sort of set up the same business from which they are moving. Like, for example, somebody works for HP, he wants to quit and start a HP associate relationship. Somebody works with IBM, wants to quit, or somebody works with KPMG, wants to quit and start a consulting. Yeah, I didn't find that very relevant, because you're not doing anything at all. You might as well stay with the brand. I mean, I would rather have more doors opening for me if I tell them I'm vice president at IBM than if I tell them I'm vice president at Hariprasad and Associates. It's not going to. So I didn't find that very exciting. So I actually wanted to find out, what do I actually want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that question was extremely uncomfortable for me, because I realized that I didn't I had not thought about it at all, other than from a perspective of a job. But I was very clear, I'm not going to give up on that question. So the more I dug deep, I realized that I need to focus on what do I want to achieve with myself, which is what is the purpose that I would like to focus, what I would like to live. Okay, my life's purpose. And that's a very while the question looks very nice and noble and very spiritual and all that, it's still a very theoretical question. If I ask somebody, what's your purpose, most of the answer is from goals perspective. So my purpose is not to simply provide for my family, or that's what we all think, provide for family and then get stability of finance and all that. So when I went a little deeper to that question, what is my purpose? I wanted to explore what was I happy doing? Okay, so what was I happy doing? And for example, every day, what's going to make me excited about doing something in the day? What was that something? The more I thought about it, I realized that all my years, that was a very interesting reflection, because when I went back almost 15 years of my what would you say, employment years, I realized that, despite the fact that I was in business development and stuff like that, the most exciting part of every role was actually in helping a customer find his solution. Whatever be the product or service that I'm selling, I realized that the deal itself didn't give me much excitement. The purchase order itself didn't give me much excitement, as much as that moment where I'm helping a customer brainstorm his cloud and his dilemmas and arrive at something. And then I realized that's what I want to be doing. That gives me tremendous happiness. So from there on, it was a question of trying to find out, okay, if that's the activity I want to do, which space should I be in? And that's how I realized I would like to be in the coaching consulting space, fundamentally helping people achieve their best. So if you ask me what is my purpose is exactly that: to help entities, whether it is an individual or an organization, achieve their potential, or follow their potential, to help them realize that they are a bestseller, and that bestseller is yet to be written, in the sense that whatever they are today, they can be exponentially much more better than wherever they are now. So that's my purpose, and that's why I stumbled upon this whole coaching journey. so to speak.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Because this is something, the way you explained it actually gives an idea about it's not so easy to find an answer for this question. But the moment we get an answer, then all the other things, it actually falls like tributaries and it falls into
Yeah,
place.
absolutely.
Excellent,
Absolutely.
excellent.
And you have to, that's why I urge everyone, every time I coach, this is one of my first couple of sessions is to help them find purpose. And the moment they find or discover, I would say discover the purpose, not define a purpose, because the purpose is already there. Yeah, you're just living it in a very unconscious way. But the moment you discover it, it suddenly moves from, 300 feet below to, to suddenly 300 feet above. And suddenly it's like 10,000 watts of bulb switched on in the room. A lot of things become clear to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, this reminds me of the way, I was helped to identify or realize my purpose. I was actually in discussion in one of my initial days of discussion with my mentor, whom I consider my mentor, Mr. Raja Krishnamurthy. I'm sure you know him.
Yeah.
So while I was speaking to him, the first question he asked me, he heard me and he asked me, okay, Venkat, what is your purpose?
Mm.
And this sounded very easy for me. But as you rightly mentioned, I spoke about, this is my goal, this is my vision, this is what I want to do. He asked only one question. He smiled and he said, Venkat, this is all fantastic. You're going to build, you're going to grow, you're going to make a platform for your kids. Financially, you'll grow. So what?
Yeah.
That so what was so strong that it then obviously I was able to find the answer and realize what it is which I'm working. Thank you, thanks a lot. In fact, you helped me recollect that. My next question is, in one of your social media post,
Mm.
you specifically mentioned that I work with leaders
Mm.
and help them move from being better in what they are doing to achieve significant better results. And this, you said, you do it by changing ineffective behaviors and building effective behaviors.
Yeah.
Now, I would want to understand, what do you mean by effective and ineffective behaviors, and how it impacts an individual leader's thought process? It will be great if you can actually elaborate that with probably one example.
Yeah, it's good. See, most of us, most of the time, for people who don't understand, the word behavior, I'll just take a minute to explain. See, a lot of the times we think of behavior as, as elements of good manners. Saying please, thank you, sorry, and good morning, good afternoon, smiling, dress well, etc., etc. While that is definitely part of the behavior, that's only one element of behavior, because I would say that element of behavior comes in the realm of what we call as advocacy or communication. Okay, that's all. Okay, but like all skills, behavior is a skill, and it can be acquired. So very specifically, there are 7 behavior skills. Okay, so there is something like one behavior skill is initiative. The other behavior skill is inquiry. Initiative is how much of initiative you take, okay, and how much do you support someone else's initiative. A lot of the times we are willing to take initiative, but we are so egoistic about it. How much are you supporting somebody else's initiative? Similarly, inquiry. Okay, you're asking questions. Are you asking questions with an intention to clarify, with an intention to expand, the information, or are you asking a question with an intention to downgrade that fellow? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So the moment you ask a question with an intention to downgrade somebody, that becomes ineffective behavior, because you're not going to get the right kind of answer to that question. Okay, so for example, if I you ask me this question now, and I can simply for example, if I say, oh Venkat, you haven't read about any of these things, so I wish you had done some homework for this. Okay, now if I tell that, it's going to hurt you immediately, and while you're live, we might laugh it off, and but it will sort of be there. Okay, now that's an ineffective behavior on my part. Okay, because it didn't help to explore the question. It rather went to downgrading. But it's a perfectly legal, English-wise correct. It does not use unparliamentary language. A lot of us use these behaviors. For example, when we tell somebody, "Oh my God, you're so stupid, yeah, you've been asking, asking for help last 3 times on this," which may be true. The guy may have asked him for help 3 times, but to tell him, look, man, why are you so inefficient? Why are you asking for help so many times? That becomes ineffective because the person to whom it is addressed, even though the content is right, maybe he asked for help 3 times, and maybe there is a degree of inefficiency, but saying it like that is ineffective behavior. Okay, but rather if you would say, look, man, this is the third time you're asking for help. Are you comfortable with your responsibilities? Okay, is there, that helps the guy to think through. It doesn't blame him, etc., etc. Yeah. Similarly, we do a lot of these things like, let's say I join late for a meeting. Yeah. I immediately walk in and say, I'm so sorry to be 5 minutes late. Yeah. Now, I would say stop saying sorry. Instead, see, when you say sorry, the focus is on you. Okay, you're saying I'm sorry because I'm late. Yeah. Now, while you're late, the other person has been waiting for that additional 5 minutes. Okay, so why don't you thank the person instead of saying I am sorry? Why don't you say thank you, Venkat, for waiting for these 5 minutes? I appreciate you waiting up for me. Okay, it sort of just opens up. It liberates. Yeah. So effective behaviors are many things. Learn to listen better, more effective behavior. Not good listening, ineffective behavior. Okay, interrupting somebody while talking, ineffective behavior. Allowing that person to complete conversation, effective behavior. Okay, understanding. Asking a question with or listening. Just listening with an intention to understand rather than with an intention to reply or retort. Yeah, the effective behavior. So I might listen very intently, but if my intention is to retort to you or retaliate, okay, then that becomes ineffective behavior. So at every step, the effective behavior is an enabling behavior where it allows people to contribute, collaborate, etc. Ineffective behaviors prevent people from collaborating, coming together, creating consensus, etc. So obviously, ineffective behaviors, when done in a team, it will prevent people from offering ideas. Okay, for example, somebody says, "Boss, I don't think we should be doing this." And the boss turns around and says, "Who the hell asked you to think? Yeah, I'll do that. You just do what you're told to do." We have seen hundreds of bosses say this. Yeah, but it's ineffective behavior because the guy stops thinking. From that moment onwards, he stops offering any ideas to the boss. Okay, so who misses? Boss misses, team misses, because this guy could have an idea which could be a game changer, but because he has been hit on the head once, he stops doing that. So that's ineffective behavior. Effective behavior, the same boss says, that's very interesting, man. Have you tried this angle? Let's say the boss has an angle, okay, or let's assume the boss hasn't. The boss thinks it's a bad idea. But even to say, have you tried this angle? Have you explored? Do you think there are any risks here? Now, the moment he talks like that, the person starts exploring that risk. Yeah, and his ideas actually start flowering, and that's effective behavior because what he has done is he has not put that guy down. He has created an environment where that person is willing to become collaborative, explore, etc., etc. So that's fundamentally ineffective and effective. So the more effective a leader's behavior is, the more effective the team responds to him. So there's more collaboration, more consensus, more willingness, more involvement, more commitment. Ineffective behaviors, all of this becomes less involvement, less commitment, less consensus, etc., etc.
Excellent, excellent. In fact, it's so relevant because in my tenure of my employment, I've certainly seen such things, and where I've noticed, as you rightly pointed out, there were individuals who did not get an opportunity to showcase their initiative, and they never initiated, and which had a major impact in their future careers. So
Absolutely.
they come into a mindset, they came into a mindset that we are not supposed to talk, so at least in front
And
of my manager.
yeah, Venkat, what I would like to add here is, while so many people are listening, this ineffective behavior is not just corporate limited, okay? Because we're talking about behaviors, it happens at home. How many times have we, you don't even have to shout, but let's say you're doing something and your child comes to you with something, you might just frown at the child, and the child walks away. Okay, and the child will never feel like interrupting you after that. Okay, so so this is something that everyone should be able to understand. The concept of ineffective behavior and and effective behavior. So that's the whether it is at home, at work, it makes a tremendous difference to the outcomes. Yeah, if, for example, you
Absolutely.
may be actually busy, but if your daughter comes and tells you that, I'd like to talk to you, but if you're able to say to whoever, let's say you're talking to me and your daughter comes or son comes and tells you, and you say, Hari, just give me a second, and you tell the son, without shooing him away, hey man, I'm in the midst of something, this is going to take me this, can I say hello to this uncle or say hello to the people, and can we just do this 1 hour later? Okay, and I'm sure he or she will happily fly off. But same result. You frown at the person, he or she will fly away. You do this also, he or she will fly away. But in the second episode, they fly away with a happy smile, knowing that they've been respected.
I agree. I think I should admit I did that mistake, and I can now
We all do that.
see that sequence. It's a good advice. I would certainly keep that in mind. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, it's a tremendous point that you have actually mentioned. I really have to admit. Okay. And but next question, right? Uh, in one of your posts,
Mm,
LinkedIn posts, specifically mentioned and asked a question:
mm,
why are many senior leaders reluctant to get coached?
mm,
Right? And you actually explained the importance and benefits of it through an analogy.
mm,
Right? Personally, I think it is prerogative for any individual to get coached in every phase of his career, and it is more important and extremely critical for a person who is actually at the leadership position. Contrary, I have a viewpoint. Rather, I would say it's a view which is a query which I would like to, get it clarified from you. This question I got it because I actually posted a kind of a polling asking options for people why organizations fail in the startups and on LinkedIn.
mm,
One specific individual, pretty senior guy again, he asked some fundamental question on it, which was very relevant. And that hit my mind. And I thought I should certainly speak to the man himself and learn that. So the question is the contrarian view is, let's imagine an individual. Let's think about an individual who is already serving as a CEO for an organization for more than 5 years.
mm,
And the organization has grown tremendously well,
mm,
increased its brand equity, extremely good growth oriented in terms of its market capitalizations, earning per share, and certainly have reached the dream where customers started identifying it by name. It basically means the organizational leader, that CEO, is already a leader. He's been
right,
successful, tremendously successful, and
right.
he's a proven leader now.
Mm,
Now, why would he need to be coached? Already he has achieved, or he is successful, right? So already he has achieved. So why would he need a coach? And in such a case, how would a coaching help that organization which has already achieved its success? Could you please explain that? Probably taking an example for our perfect understanding.
Has anybody told you you're very naughty, Venkat?
Oh, from my childhood, everyone, yes.
Because you're for the last couple of times you have referred to my post, and you're taking whatever I said and throwing it back at me. So
I'm no, no. Hari, I'll tell you. The thing is, see, I've been trained by you and certified by you. I was fortunate to be there, right? But if I have to speak to an eminent speaker, now for a moment, let's leave Hari aside as a
no,
coach,
no. Let's
but
let's
as an individual,
let's answer
I
that
need
question.
to do my research. That's where it came from.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I was just kidding. So yeah, of course. Yeah, it just allows me to expand on that thought. Yeah. So what I posted is my conviction. It allows me to expand on that thought. See, let me ask you this question. While you were working, you had an employment phase, right? Before you got onto this consulting journey.
Yes,
Let me
yes.
ask you this: while you were head of HR in that organization, wherever you are working, yeah, Did you feel that your CEO needed coaching?
200%, yes.
There you are. So, see, the key is, a lot of the times we think that, like I said, leadership is about a position or an authority. Yeah. And, a lot of times we think that, it's a destination. Okay. It's not a destination, it's a milestone. Okay. So let's take a typical example of an organization that is doing extremely well. Let's take some of the really large organizations, L&T, Unilever, Wipro, Adobe, whatever. Yeah, they are all, every one of them are leaders in their domain, and they have CEOs who have performed tremendously well. Yeah. Now this whole concept of VUCA, as far as a business is concerned, which is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. VUCA is a continuous term. Okay, the pandemic is a classic example of a VUCA environment being thrust on leadership. Okay, so it's a continuous term where okay, the pandemic is over now. There are a lot of organizations who invested in digitization and creating change. Now that will trigger other sense of challenges. Probably having funds, having infrastructure, having space, etc. There are tons of organizations who got millions of square feet of space right now. Yeah, and with a lot of work from home now becoming a sort of a normal, and there are a lot of hybrid a lot of hybrid models coming into play. They are going to be left with millions of square feet of excess space. Okay, right. So the business ecosystem is continuously evolving. Okay, so as the business ecosystem is continuously evolving, every leader, whether it is a branch manager or a CEO, is constantly facing challenges of business. Okay, it could be a constraint, it could be new opportunities, it could be new relationships, it could be that your business model itself is going out of out of circulation, and you need to think up new business. So the point is, change is the constant. Okay, now if you don't I have this classic saying that if you don't change will change you. Yeah, so so if you're not adaptable to that change. Okay, and when, let's assume the new business opportunities, you are going to be needing leaders. Yeah, how are you going to create that leadership pipeline? How are you going to decide that I need to get into this business, I don't need to get into this business? How are you going to decide that I need to get out of this territory, I need to get out of this business? You see organizations divesting, you see organizations selling off, you see organizations acquiring. Yeah, tremendous amount. So all of that means that constantly a CEO needs to be changing, or not just a CEO, everybody in the organization, they need to constantly change. Okay, so it's like this. If you just put it very mathematically, if you're doing X now, okay, whatever that X is, as an individual or as a team or as an organization, if you want to change that into Y or Z, okay, it could be anything. I'm not saying it's turnover, but it could be you want to become a different organization, whatever. Yeah, you just want to change. Now, are you going to change by doing whatever you did till yesterday? You're not. You're going to change when you do something differently. And the moment you do something differently, you're going to face resistance and reluctance and all kinds of things. Yeah, you're going to face a lot of headwind. And to handle that, a leadership behavior needs to come into play. Okay, so Simon Sinek has written a book about this concept. He calls it the infinite game. Yeah, so the infinite game, if you look at a finite game, the example of a finite game is, let's say, a cricket match or a football match or whatever. The duration is very specific. Yeah, there's a 90-minute game or a 3-hour game or a 1-day game or whatever. The opponents are very clear. You know who you're competing with. You know the metrics of how much is winning. A 3-2 goal is a win, or a 200 versus 180 score is a win, etc. Okay, but in life, in friendship, in relationships, in business, there is no finite position here. It's an infinite game. What is the definition of an infinite game? Infinite game is, it's a continuous affair, where you can have finite milestones. Okay, I want to get this quality reward, I want to get this turnover, I want to I want to be present in a great place to work magazine, or blah blah blah. Yeah, they're all finite milestones. I want to achieve $500 million turnover. Now, the day you achieve your $500 million turnover, does that mean that you're going to shut down your business? No, you're going to think up a new thing, right? So the purpose of the finite game is winning. The purpose of the infinite game is to stay relevant. Okay, so think of it like driving on a highway. Okay, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you are driving on a highway at a 60-kilometer average speed, you could be relevant. Okay, because the average speed on the highway was maximum of 80 kilometers. Okay, so if you're driving at 60 kilometers, you could be relevant. Okay, today the average speed on the highway is 100 kilometers. Okay, so if you drive at 60 kilometers, you're going to have people honking behind you. Okay, now you have only two choices: either you pick up speed or you allow them to overtake you. Okay, now you take it another 5 years from now, the average speed will become 120 kilometers or 150 kilometers per hour. Yeah, at that time also, if you're driving at 60, you will not have a lane to play. You will become irrelevant. Right. Okay, so unless you yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I had actually invited Parthasarathi, if your client. So he have come in. So I want to hear from him.
Yeah.
And learn from him, because he's one of the person who've been coached by you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So let me welcome him. He's actually waiting online.
Okay. How did you get hold of Partha? Nice to have him on board here. Call him. Yeah.
Yeah. Just one moment.
Yeah.
He's joining. And by the way, viewers, Parthasarathi is a senior leader from Ample Technologies. And he has witnessed the organization grow from, I think, 6 million to 150 million during a phase of time. And he was instrumental in leading the organization, grow to that extent. And he was one of the senior leaders who've been coached by Hariprasad Menon. So we would like to hear from Parthasarathi himself. Just one moment, he's connecting his audio. Just one moment, he'll be online, and I have a question for him on that. Welcome, Partha.
Is he connected?
Yes. I think it's.
I think his video is frozen. Huh?
Yeah. Just one moment.
Yeah, ask him to tell him his video is frozen. Maybe he doesn't realize it.
I've just pinged him, sir. Welcome, Partha, and very good evening.
Hey, Partha.
I am having some technological challenges, looks like. I was not able to hear you guys.
Oh, sorry.
You can't have technological challenges, Partha.
So, see, that's the irony of it.
And first of all, let me welcome you to this official YouTube channel of VS Strategic Business Consulting. We actually conduct a monthly 2 series and conversation with a thought leader, specifically concentrating on leadership aspects and frameworks and understanding the term itself and how do we go about it. So in this series, I've been very fortunate that I was able to get the acceptance from Hariprasad Menon and to talk to us and guide us with respect to the importance of coaching and organization culture and how it impacts the overall leadership. Now, I would like to, ask you, you have witnessed the growth of Ample Technologies from a single digit to a multi-million digits, right? And what is your perspective about the importance of senior leaders being coached, and how did it help you, and how did it help the overall organization and its growth?
So first of all, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here. I think Hari has been one of I call Hari a Guruji. So that's how I look at him. So let me take you back, for example, 10 years back. Let's say about 10 years back, Ample was a very small organization, and so we had embarked upon a culture change journey in our endeavor to grow to the next level, because we were a small company. We believe that the right culture will help the shift the mindset of our people in this journey of aspirational growth. And as part of that
Mhm.
journey, the entire leadership team, which I was part of, and two layers below that, had gone through the grid training. So grid is a great framework
Mhm.
for behavioral management, and we were clear from the beginning that, in order to build a great culture or the right culture, the leaders needed to change the behavior on the ground to drive day-to-day business activities. For example, things like goal setting, or things like hiring, things like how do you do reviews, how do you manage escalations, etc., etc. And while grid helped us understand the power of the behavior, the coaching intervention, which was under Hari guidance, helped leaders anchor their behavior changes on a day-to-day basis. My coaching journey started around that same time, almost 10 years back, and I continue to even today, be on that journey, because very early on I realized the power of grit as well as the power of coaching. So let me tell you how this impacted the journey of Ample at a organization level, as well as my own journey. Okay. As an organization, once I think I think almost, uh, if I'm not wrong, almost one third of the organization, about 30% of the organization went through this journey. It was about 6 to 9 months kind of program, which started with grid and training, and then the coaching journey. Uh, I think the result we saw after that was amazing. Uh, People started, focusing on solutions to our problems. Politics, office politics, it just disappeared. Okay, people brought a lot of candor to workplace. They started enjoying their work. They loved the culture, and the transformation we saw over the next, let's say 4 to 6 quarter after this intervention was amazing.
Mhm.
uh, you fast forward to 10 years now. uh, Today Ample has grown over the last 10 years, in terms of, just to give you a sense, in terms of revenue we have grown 20x. In terms of business presence across locations in the country, we have grown 25x. In terms of manpower, we have grown 15x. And all this was built on the foundation of grit and coaching.
Mhm.
So
Excellent.
this is as organization. Now, about me myself, how did it impact me personally? So for me also, the experience has been amazing. Hari as a guru has been has been instrumental in my growth and in what I am today. I'm a much better version of myself today, 10 years down the line. So my coaching journey helped me, being a far more rounded leader, being a more effective leader. It contributes significantly in my ability to take on more by growing more leaders under me, manage a large scale, as well as have a significant impact as a professional in the growth of the organization. Uh, when I started this journey 10 years back, I was into product management. I was head of products, and I had a small team under me. Today,
Okay.
if you look at the role I manage, I head the retail business for Ample. I manage a business of close to 600 crores uh, across marquee. We have four marquee brands, which adds up to our retail portfolio, which is Apple, A6, Under Armour, and Bose. These are all international and well-known brands. We are present in 60 locations across 18 plus cities, and a team size of 350 people.
Ah.
That's the scale I manage today. Now, I think all that, the foundation of that journey for me to be able to do that was built under Hari through his coaching interventions and within the framework of grid. And I'm very thankful to him for that. And not only that, I think as a person also, I have grown. I think the coaching has helped me realize my true potential, as well as, it has helped me. I believe strongly it has helped me become a better human being.
Ah, beautiful.
So
Excellent.
I think to me it's wonderful. It's remarkable, the journey.
I can really, I don't know how to thank you. The reason is the way you actually explained it, right? I was able to visualize entire thing probably like, watching a movie now or reading a wonderful, pointer. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Parthasad, because we were actually discussing on one specific question where I did ask Hari as stating that if a leader has already proved himself and the organization has grown, right, and the CEO has managed in such a way that the organization has increased its market presence, its brand equity as well as its earnings per share, he has been successful. If already a person is successful, why would he need to a coach?
You can ask
No,
him. You can ask Partha the same question and ask him, does he feel coaching would be useful to him now? He's already running a
he said
6 crore
he
business.
said you to be a guru. So the affirmatively the way he explained, he has like that we say, right, guru beyond namaha. So he is completely surrendered that way. So that's one of the reasons probably it exemplifies the importance of coaching. Anyhow, Partha, what would your answer be for that?
See, I think it's for me. I think, for example, as I said, we were a very large, small organization. I have been part of Ample for 20 years now, and
Mm-hmm.
our aspiration is world class. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when you have that kind of aspiration, your learning, your journey never ends, right? So there is, when you want to be the best in the world, uh, unless until you're open to learning, unless until you are willing to, because things are changing around you rapidly, correct? And a journey like this and a intervention like this helps you stay focused, helps you stay grounded. uh, Otherwise you can't do that journey, because it's all starts there.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Uh, I would personally like to thank you, Parthasarji, for actually, coming on this series and giving your perspective, because it makes a lot of relevance, and it's extremely important for a senior leader like you to come and explain and brief, which you did extremely well, explaining the importance of being coached at the senior leadership level and how it actually impacts the overall organization. It's just not about the current growth, as it's a part of the journey, how it is so relevant being coached and be, moving ahead. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Parthasarthi, for joining us on this series.
Thank you.
Personally, and I would like to thank you on behalf of my viewers. Also, I would like to thank you because it's very important. Your timing is very important. In a short notice, you agreed and you obliged our request. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Most welcome. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hari, I think that was an excellent point because it was so relevant, Parthasarthi joining at this correct juncture while you were answering this question and talking about giving through that example what I asked, how
Yeah.
you were explaining. I think hearing it from a senior leader like him, how it impacted his journey, his organizational team members' journey, the maturity of the culture within the organization, how it impacted. I think it made a lot of relevance, and I would like to personally thank you for that answer and that opportunity. Now, getting back to my next question. Actually, I wanted to ask a question, but I'm skipping that because I found the answer for that, and I'm sure it's going to be much more relevant. So I'm going to go to the next question. Now, in the current last about 2 decades, if we typically look at, there's been a strong buzzword, two buzzwords, mentoring and coaching. Are they synonymous or are they different? If so, how they are different? Request you to elaborate, probably giving an example.
See what? Yeah. See, there are a lot of such words which seem closely associated, but they have their own flavor. Let me just stick to this mentoring, coaching, but because those keep coming up very often. See what happens when mentoring. See, if it is a hardcore mentoring, if it is just focused on mentoring, you're actually a particular leader focuses on helping someone else understand the nuances of business. Okay, how to be, let's say an exiting CEO is preparing the succession CEO, and mentors him into the CEO role. Okay, so typically he would be talking in terms of, these are your responsibilities, these are the, areas, which are dangerous for you, these are the challenges for you, these are the things that I did, you could do this, but, this is what I found successful. So in mentoring, the mentor uses himself as a primary example. Okay, and tries to transfer his techniques and tips and methods to that other person. So there is a lot of transfer of knowledge, there is a lot of suggestions, advices, sharing of information. There is a tremendousness with respect to the flow of information going from the mentor to the mentee, or the other person. Okay, so the mentor transfers his knowledge, tips, techniques, methods, tricks, everything, and tries to get the other person up to speed. Okay, so that's mostly mentoring. Okay, but so in the concept of mentoring, it is a given that the mentor needs to be a domain expert or an expert in the area in which the other person wants to be mentored. Okay, but coaching is not that. Coaching is actually a very enabling thing. A lot of people think coaching is suggestions and advices. They almost think it is an alternate of counseling. Okay, it's none of this. It's neither advising, strategizing, mentoring, none of this. Coaching is fundamentally a platform where the coaching participant, okay, has an aspiration. Okay, and that aspiration needs to be fulfilled. Okay, the potential needs to be unleashed, and the coach helps the participant to discover, unleash, attain that potential. Okay, so the coach is somebody who triggers those questions and who helps that person to navigate. Okay, but the navigating has to be done by the coachee, if I can use a word like that. Okay, so think of it like a navigator in a car. Okay, let's say a driving assistant or a navigator in a car. The steering wheel is still with the driver. The coach is somebody who sits there and says, look, if you take this road, you'll get here. If you take this road, you'll get here. So the questions, the cobwebs, the dilemmas, the challenges. Like, for example, somebody could come and tell me, look, Hari, I had a classic example of this kind of coaching, where I was coaching somebody in a very senior person in a very, very large organization, a multi-billion-dollar organization, and he was head of ENS, EHS, Employee Health Safety. He was heading that function. He was nominated for coaching. At some time, I sensed that there is a sense of disconnect in his questions, and it took more than 3 sessions for him to slowly open up. When he opened up, he said, I want to quit. Okay, so that was a shock for me, because he was nominated by the organization. The organization is paying me to coach this guy. And so, my dilemma at that time was a little bit moral also. Should I tell the organization that, because they're paying? And finally, I realized that, my coaching client is actually this person sitting in front of me. Okay, the organization is the sponsor of that coaching. So the organization pays me. But, my ethics is to make sure that this person sitting in front of me gets his goal or gets his dilemmas resolved. Right. So when I kept, going deeper and deeper and deeper, he had his reasons, etc., etc., etc. And, the coaching assignment finished in about 10 or 11 months. And, he was extremely thankful for clarifying all those cobwebs. What was interesting is that almost a year later, he sent me an email saying he's quit, he started his own business, and he's now running a 5 crore business.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, mentoring is, when somebody wants to, for example, there is a HR head, there is a new HR assistant or a vice president who's been hired, and the HR head wants to coach, mentor this guy into that role. The coaching does not transfer any information. Mentoring transfers information. Okay, in a mentor-mentee relationship, the center of gravity is the mentor. The energy flows from the mentor. Whereas in a coaching relationship, the energy flows from the coaching participant. Okay, so if you don't have an aspiration, the coach has no role. Okay, in a mentor-mentee relationship, there is a hierarchical, power available. The mentor can force the mentee to say, look, you must do this. But, if I'm coaching you and you don't want to do it, there is no obligation on either side. So only aspirations and interest will coach. So coaching is really about igniting, the power in you, so that you can, raise your orbit. You can escape the gravity that's holding you back and escape to higher orbit. That's fundamentally coaching. There could be some amount of mentoring, in a coaching involved, but it's very, very, very less, because typically in coaching, the idea is to trigger the curiosity of the participant and not tell the participant what to do.
If I have to put it, is this right? I'll just say mentoring is more about what needs to be done, but coaching is more about why and how things need to be done. Am I right in my understanding?
Uh, no, the first part is right. Mentoring is, yes, about what needs to be done. Maybe they even share about how it can be done and why it should be done, etc. But coaching, if you say, it's not about why or how, it's simply about you want it done, you need help. Yeah, I'm here to help you. Okay, that's it. Okay, why you want to do it, I really don't care. For example, if you tell me that, Hari, I want to become an athlete, yeah, and I want to participate in the next Olympics. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's not my job to ask you why you want to do that.
Mm.
Yeah, though if I know your purpose, that helps me to coach you better. But my job here is to help find out, the power inside you that can help you become that international athlete 4 years from now towards that. Okay, so it's not my job to judge you. It's my job to help you. That's why, I say, in all my posts, you will see it's about helping. That's why your second question was almost it, helping people become better at whatever they want to do.
Fantastic, fantastic. It really now clears the thought. Beautiful. Now, when you spoke about this coaching and mentoring, now in the current situation, right? I'm slightly going a bit tangent, but I feel it is relevant, and I want to ask you this question. We have many leadership models, many leadership frameworks, and eminent coaches like you, right? But still, there are in the recent situation of pandemic, we have noticed many organizations, if not every organization, almost fail to maintain its, you know, uh, business as usual.
Yeah.
Do you see any gaps in people understanding the term leadership, or is there a gap in leadership? Now, as a CEO coach, what did you notice, and how would you approach? Now, you have your clients, you have been coaching people. So, how would you approach in bridging such things and enabling such leaders and ensure that in the later stages in the future, if we come across similar situation again, the business would not stop or at least come to a standstill?
It's a brilliant
And
question.
Hari, just 1 minute before that, I'm sorry. This is for the viewers. It's a pretty interesting conversation, and the topic is so important and critical and amazingly interesting that we would like to actually extend it by 15 or 20 minutes more. And I would personally request each and everyone to be stay tuned and listen to the conversation, because it's one of those extremely important aspects of not just from the business fraternity, but for any individual who is actually having a purpose and who wants to grow. Let's understand the importance of being coached directly from an eminent coach, highly reputed coach like Hariprasad Menon himself. Yes, Hari, sorry to have interrupted
So
you.
that's fine. And I would invite the viewers to also chip in if they have some questions, and if we have time, we can take a couple of questions, and
No, we will. I already have received a couple of questions which I've marked it, so I would certainly ask you.
Okay. So yeah. So you were asking about is there a gap in the understanding of leadership? And yeah, I would like to quote Marshall Goldsmith, who's arguably the world's #1 coach. Marshall Goldsmith talks about coaching and leadership as he says coaching is not about helping leaders understand the practice of leadership. Okay, just stay with me here. Okay, viewers also. Okay, it's not about helping leaders understand the practice of leadership. Rather, it's helping them practice the understanding of leadership.
Could you repeat it again, Hari? Sorry.
It is not about helping leaders understand the practice of leadership. Okay, it's not
It
about
is
helping
not.
understand the practice of leadership. Okay, but it is about helping them practice the understanding of leadership. Okay, which means it's not about helping them understand what the hell leadership is all about. It's about helping them practice whatever understanding of the leadership they have. Okay, to go back to that question, see, yeah, there is a bit of both. One is people do not understand, the definition of leadership. So there is a gap in the understanding of what leadership is all about. Second, there is a leadership gap. Okay, and actually it flows from the first one. When people don't understand what leadership is all about, they are not able to provide the right kind of leadership. Yeah, so what happens is a lot of times, leadership thinks, most organizations, a lot of leaders think, their job is just to acquire a higher number. So every business metrics is tied down to how much turnover, how much profitability. No one really stops to question what are the vulnerabilities of the organization. Is our organization geared for the future? Does our organization have a purpose? Does an organization have a vision? Okay, they don't do that. So what they do is they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. They keep whipping up, the same curd. So after you have removed the curd, if you keep whipping it up, you're not going to get more curd. Okay, you're only going to spend a lot of effort. Einstein said this beautifully. He said, you have Einstein's thing on behind. I know that sort of reminded me to. Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results each time. Okay, if you continue to do what you've always done, you will continue to get what you always got. You're not going to get anything different. Yeah. So if you're simply trying to get a higher turnover, higher profitability, the only thing you're going to do is to focus on products, customers. How can I get more customers? How can I get more products? How can I open more branches, more territories? That's it. You're not going to be focusing on, am I relevant? What is the customer of, let's say, 2030 want from me? So every CEO in sometime in 2010 or 2015, I don't even think they would have imagined that a pandemic will interrupt their business like anything. Yeah. So that is leadership. The leadership is the ability to create a vision, align the organization towards the vision, and then provide the energy for that organization to run and achieve that vision. In order to do that, the leader needs to let go of the present. If he has to go after the future, if he's trying to protect the present, he can never achieve the future, because it's like running on a treadmill. Okay, no matter how much you run, at the end of the day, you're still at the same place. You might increase your speed, you might get tired, but you're still at the same place. Okay, 1 hour later, you're sweating, you're panting, but you're at the same place. You must have run 5 kilometers in the treadmill, but you're at the same place. Yeah, that's the problem. A lot of leaders don't understand the difference between having a vision and having a vision statement. Okay, a vision statement is a very beautifully glamorous looking statement, possibly written by the CEO and two of his friends, over a Starbucks coffee or inside his cabin, and then and he wants to believe that the rest of the organization needs to follow it. Okay, it may be the CEO's definition of a vision. It's not the vision of the organization. So, a vision is not just a statement. It's much more than a statement. It has to be magnetic. It has to energize people into wanting to do whatever that vision is. People working in that organization say, wow, man, I like where this organization is going here. I would like to provide my energies so that when the organization gets there, I will automatically become bigger. So you're getting you're getting a collaborator there. Okay, think of it like this. Let's say you tie 4 horses to a chariot, and there is a charioteer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you allow the horses to run on its own, each horse will pull on its own direction.
Right.
Okay. The chariot will not move an inch. It might probably move 10 inches. Okay. But if you align all the horses and you provide a direction for the horse, okay, can you imagine the speed with which the chariot will run if all the 4 horses are pulling the chariot? Okay, versus each horse pulling in different direction. That is a difference between an organization having a vision and an organization just focusing on managing the present. So they'll keep moving, but it will be inches. That's exactly what happened to a lot of organizations who didn't provide the vision, who didn't provide the energy. They were reacting. They suddenly found themselves hit with a pandemic, They just don't have a plan because they don't have a vision. Everything we do is a vision, right? I mean, you want to build a house, you start with imagining what kind of house you want to be. You want to go on a vacation, you start with imagining what kind of a vacation you would like to have. Okay, you start with a desired picture and then you work backwards. You don't get in the car and say, I want to go on a vacation, let me just get in the car and start driving. You might drive and you might get somewhere, but it might not be the place where you actually want to go. It might not provide you the kind of enjoyment that you actually want.
Beautifully explained. In fact, this reminds me. I read a book of Simon Sinek, which which you had referred just a while ago. Start with the why. He actually beautifully explained the importance of vision and the purpose. And after that, today I've heard from you the importance of vision and the difference between just having it on wall and working with the spirit of it. The spirit of it.
Yeah, having it on a wall is just a vision statement. The vision has to be in here. It cannot be out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, if it's out there, it's not a vision. If you need a statement to tell you what to do, you're finished. If it's not in your heart, you're not going anywhere. And every viewer who's seeing this, or everyone who wants to see it later, all they have to do is to ask themselves, how are they managing their day? Okay, the power of the vision is the vision is automatic. Like, for example, when they get up in the morning, every one of them has some kind of a goal that they want to achieve by end of the day. Okay, that's nothing but a small vision for the next 8 or 10 hours. Okay, and they go about achieving it. People might call it a plan, or people might call it an action plan or whatever, but it is nothing but a microcosm of a vision. That's the power of vision.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hari, what I would do is I have another question, but I don't think I'll go there because that question can be answered with one of the viewers' question.
Okay.
And there's a common friend of ours, Sudhir Nelakandan.
Yes.
He actually, his statement is, why can't we talk about the importance of grid in formulating people behavior? I think it's such a relevant question. So.
Okay, good. Yeah. See, I had the grid business in India. I'm CEO of Grid International in India. See, Grid is an organization that was started for the purpose of organization building. See, a lot of business frameworks or organization building frameworks actually started off as a theory. Whether it is situational leadership or 7 habits. A lot of it started as a theory propounded by the respective authors, and then it was interesting enough, and then the theory slowly became a model and a framework.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With Grid, what is interesting is it was actually the leaders of Exxon, I'm talking about 1960s, Exxon, the leaders of Exxon, the CEO of Exxon actually called Dr. Robert Blake. Robert Blake then was, a professor of Austin University, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He called Dr. Robert Blake and said, look, my organization has got tremendous amount of potential. We have lots of resources, we have good talent, we have good money, but somehow I don't think we are doing what we think we are capable of doing. We are punching below our weight. Can you help us understand? So Dr. Robert Blake did close to a year, 2 years of study there. Okay, and the consequence of that study is the Grid framework. So unlike most other frameworks, Grid was born from an organization need, a business need. Okay, so the Grid framework is not merely a training framework. A Grid framework is an organization building framework that helps organization achieve significantly higher business outcomes. Now, that's what you just heard from Partha. Over 10 years, they moved from $6 million to $150 million. What Partha did not tell you is that they moved from something like 150 people then to something like 800 people now. Okay, they moved from something like 4 stores to 60 plus stores now. Now, here is an element of culture which happened during this entire pandemic. While everybody was, letting go of people, laying off people, Ample did not lay off even a single guy. Okay, not even a single guy they laid off. Okay, they were very, very clear that we are not going to send people home, just because the organization is hit. Okay, and it calls for a tremendous amount of courage. When the business is on lockdown for 3 to 4 months, you're paying rent for the stores. and the stores are in all marquee malls. There is one in UB City in Bangalore, and etc., etc. So when there is tremendous amount of pressure on funds to decide that you're not going to lay off even a single person, okay, that power comes from culture, okay, and that's what grit delivers. Grit delivers a change in the attitudes and mindset. See, no matter how much how much we suggest, change is not going to happen unless you want to change. Yeah, you want, see, no matter how much your wife tells you to get up and go for a walk or something, you're not going to go. But the day you decide you want to go for a walk, you're up and about. Okay, you don't. So the day you decide you want to change, it takes that much. That's all it takes to change. Okay, but so the fundamental requisite for change is a belief change. If I don't change my beliefs, I will not change my behavior. What grit provides is a change in the belief system. And that's why we work with a lot of organizations. Whenever an organization wants to become a different kind of an organization, you cannot simply change processes and policies, okay, or strategies and templates and methods and all that. You have to change beliefs, because who's going to take the organization there? It's the people. So if you don't change beliefs, you're not going to change their behaviors. So the moment that happens, and that's what grit does. I would like to thank Sudhir Neelakandan for raising this issue, because it's a great opportunity for me to talk about grit. I try to consciously, since we're talking about coaching, I didn't bring the grit. But what grit does is it helps organizations globally in creating a culture. If you see LinkedIn, there are tons of posts on people saying sound culture, we need grit culture. It's everybody talks about the culture that they want, but nobody knows how to build that culture. Everybody acknowledges the power of culture, but how to build that? You cannot build culture by simply changing policies, processes, and sending a few emails. Okay, or taking people on workshops and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on workshops and offsites, and none of that will happen. Culture changes when belief changes, and belief is not easy to change. I cannot send an email saying Venkat, from tomorrow morning you better start listening more better. Okay, from tomorrow morning you stop interrupting. I can't do that unless you decide that shit, man. This is not this is not effective. I need to listen more, or I need to listen better. I need to stop interrupting. Unless you have that belief, you will not change. So grit helps organizations and teams transform their culture towards achieving higher business outcomes, because grit was born from an organizational need. It was not a theory or a book which later on became a framework.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think it actually gives a absolute, clarity on the importance of grit and how it can actually help in transforming organizational culture and the organization itself. Now, we have another question from Mr. Raghunath Kashyap.
Okay.
His question is, Dear Mr. Menon, seldom we hear leaders, managers claiming that they have mastered in understanding behavior. But many at times they are never open for feedback and have 0% display of openness.
Yeah.
What is really the meaning of the term ego? Can you share one story? How did you help a leader evolve and accept that what he was doing was wrong till he met you? He was not sure whether he was doing it wrong, but he realized and he understood.
Got that. Yeah, so there are 2-3 elements of the question. One is about why why are people reluctant to receive feedback? Okay, that's an easy one. Because people are afraid. Okay, so what are you afraid of is that you're afraid of your importance. Okay, now we see what happens is we always judge ourselves by our intentions. Okay, but we do not judge our own actions. So we would like to think, that we are God's gift to mankind, and we are the best branch manager, we are the best CEO, we are the best vice president, we are the best husband, spouse, blah blah blah. We are the best neighbor. If you get elected to your apartment committee, you think you are the president that nobody else had, and So there is a tremendous amount of attitude, where you think that you are the only person who can provide all the answers. I am the one who has all the answers. Okay, nothing wrong with saying I am the one that has all the answers, but to say I am the only one that has all the answers, okay, that's the ego bit. Okay, so the ego is to think that without you, the people around you are going to significantly miss. Okay, and to think that you're the only person, the fact that you can make an impact is one thing. That's probably, you can even acknowledge your your ability to make an impact, but to think that without you that impact cannot happen, and you're the only person who can make an impact in your organization, okay, or your ecosystem, or your personal space, that's ego. Okay, so this ego plays around in so many ways. We are constantly trying to prove to people that we are smarter than you. So how many times we have a team member or a subordinate, coming to you with an idea, and then you say, wow, great idea, but can you also do the following? Why don't you try this also? Okay, so you constantly try to add your 2 cents worth of suggestion to that. Now the problem with that is, the quality of that idea may go up by 10%, okay, but the commitment to the idea drops by 90%. Okay, because it has now become your idea, not his idea. Okay, and how many times we have seen people telling, you may want to refer this also. Okay, it's not, the sentence is not you may want to refer this. It's not actually not a suggestion, but it's an order. Okay, I would like you to refer it. Is the unsaid statement. Okay, so that's the ego, and that fragility, that my importance will get shattered the moment I ask for feedback. Okay, that is why people, so fear of embarrassment, fear of ridicule, fear of retaliation, fear of his fear of getting hurt, all of that, basically fear, fear of getting dismantled in some form. It could be his ego, it could be his self perception about himself. Well, I think I'm a great CEO. You ask for feedback, and the guy says, boss, I have never been inspired by you at all, and boom, the CEO doesn't know how to handle that. I know, probably he'll say, what nonsense, yeah, you don't like me, you better work for someone else. He'll actually sack the guy for, so people don't give feedback for that reason. People are scared to give feedback because of retaliation. People don't receive feedback because they think they might hear something that they don't want to hear. They always want to hear that they're God's gift to mankind. Unfortunately, they're not so. Nobody is God's gift to mankind. So that's one of the reasons why feedback doesn't come. Fear, yeah. And the ego is basically thinking that I am the only one who can make a difference. That's the ego. The third thing is, you wanted an example about people doing something significantly, and then changing. Correct? That's what.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The person realizing his mistake after meeting you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll it's very easy for me to pull an example of somebody who's been a very harsh, crude leader. Because that's the typical definition. You have over aggressive leaders, and they meet with a coach, and then they don't know. Let me give you an example of somebody who's not so. And because of that, I'm talking about a current CEO of an organization. Again, I'm still working with that organization, but so I will not name that. So he, I started working with that organization about 6 or 7 years ago. So about 7 years ago, when I first did the grid workshop, and I met him. He's a highly analytical person. This person, okay. So and he was the CFO of his organization then. And he was highly analytical. So because of his analytical tendencies, he tended to question everything around him. He was not questioning because he was doubtful or skeptical. He was questioning because that was his nature. Now, while the questioning helps to discover hidden dangers, or potential that is not yet discovered, etc., it kept putting people off. They were afraid of taking anything to him for fear of it getting beaten out. They think that he will throw cold water on that idea. Okay, they make a suggestion, and then he'll ask 5 times. He'll ask why do you want to do this? Why do you want to spend this, etc. And so he was being ineffective, despite the fact that he had a beautiful trait which was very useful for the organization. Okay, so so we started with him taking feedback. Okay, 360-degree feedback from colleagues. So when I take a 360-degree feedback, I normally ask people to take feedback from their supervisors, and from people below them, from people on either side, which is supervisors and subordinates, and then friends. Sometimes I also tell them, if they are very courageous, I tell them, take feedback from customers, because you're interacting with customers also. So when they took feedback from customers and all of these feedback, one thing that became very clear was, everybody liked the fact that he provides tremendous amount of analytical strength. Okay, but they were all telling him, stop being so skeptical, stop coming across as disinterested. Okay, So I started, working with him, saying, okay, how do we retain your strength of asking questions and being analytical, but at the same time, how do we make sure that you don't come across as skeptical or disinterested or throwing cold water or demotivating, uninspiring? So I worked with him for close to about 1.5 years or so, on the space, and over a period of time, with grid, and I started helping. He came to the conclusion that he feels that the other person has not thought through something very clearly, and that's why he needed to ask all these things. Okay, so in a way, it was a kind of distrust. Okay, the thinking that the someone else has not thought through, and I am the one who's supposed to think through. Okay, that's an element of ego for the person who asked this question. That's an example of ego. So when I asked him what is the distrust, okay, so we just dived a little deeper below. What is the distrust? Why do you feel he? So he says, look, earlier he has exhibited this kind, and and every time I asked questions, we discovered new potential, new opportunities, or new dangers, etc., etc. So we said, okay, let's look at this. How can we make sure that you don't lose out on this questioning, but at the same time, how can we make that person collaborative? So when he realized that he's not being accepted, his questioning is actually getting rejected. Okay, so this is a classic example of your methods not giving you the result that you want. Okay, he wants the other person to think through. He wants other, but obviously they are pushing him back. He's saying, look, I don't even want to bring an idea to you. So when he understood that, he started changing his method of questioning. Okay, so he said, okay, I understand that he may have done some field work. Let me not provide statements saying, oh, you have not done that, you have not done this, this is a danger, that's a potential. Instead, he said, he tried asking questions. Okay, so it was a change, because he was so used to telling. He's a CFO. He was so used to telling people this is wrong, that's not wrong. You have not done that. You have not found out this potential. There is money here. There is no money, etc., etc. So for him to, it needed tremendous amount of patience, because to give 5 sentences of judgment, you can do it in 3 minutes. Yeah. But to sit and ask 5 questions and listen to that person, okay, and then use that conversation. So typically 5 minutes worth of statement making enlarged into something like half an hour worth of discussion. But he went through. So he used to ask, okay, this is what you're suggesting. Are you sure? Are there any dangers? That you think we should be focused on. So the guy might say, oh yeah, I have not thought about it. Let me get back to you. Okay, so now he has actually become a collaborative person. It's his idea. And he wants to go back and he says, okay, I've discovered, I think we are very clear. And this guy can ask his questions, and once he's clear, he can go. So this was a beautiful change. And when I actually interacted with the person, he was a CFO. Now he's actually the CEO of that organization. He's a CEO of that organization. So he's now running that business. Going after profitability, going after relationships, etc., etc. So it's an example of somebody who had an ineffective behavior, who had a strength but an ineffective behavior. We need to channelize the strength towards effective behaviors. Yeah, and help him and the organization become effective. I don't know if I answered that question. Would that?
Absolutely answered, in fact, because
you can ask the viewer. He can type out if he thinks that question is answered.
Yeah, Raghunath, Kashyap, if you think that you have understood and the question is answered, please comment so that we know it is answered. Else, do comment that you still have a doubt and you could actually share the question. I would, circle back with Hari Menon and send you the answer. So for considering, I would actually take the question if I'll get the answer. Else, I would. Oh, answer we have got. Yes, Chief. So he understood it. Thank you, Kashyap. Thanks a ton. So, considering the time, we have extended by 20 minutes, and we have all, we are through with that. Personally, I don't want this session to actually end, but I would want more such sessions from you. I think after listening to that, I would. Offline, I would want to talk to you and request you one more timing on that. So before we wind up, I would like you to actually give some closing comments about your experience about this entire session and your thoughts with respect to how we could proceed on that.
I think, one of the things that struck me, was the tremendous amount of homework that you have done, in trying to ask the right kind of, in trying to ask questions, which are usually, everybody's questions, and it's sort of, the fact that you ask these questions helped, to bring out some of the answers were quite detailed, but it helped. The discussion was nice. So I really appreciated the kind of research you have done in, picking the kind of questions. And I think what also struck me was that in a lot of the questions, we just kept sticking to the concept of leadership, and we get sticking to the concept of business and stuff like that. So even though we were discussing coaching, we were not so far away from the concept of leadership at all. We were circling around the same element of leadership. I found. I think it's going to be. I think what you're doing is quite useful for a lot of people who are taking the trouble and willing to subscribe to your channel and take this, because over a period of time I'm sure you'll be creating a library, a repository of fantastic thought processes from tremendous amount of thought leaders. I saw your conversation with Raja Krishnamurthy, with Sharon Gill. I think it's I think you're creating a wonderful repository, a wonderful library. I think that's going to be very valuable. I personally found this conversation quite useful, because these are questions that I normally tend to ask myself and put it out. Like, why do leaders not get coached? And so you see some of my posts. But the fact that when you're asking those questions, it just allows me to elucidate with some examples, which you can't do on LinkedIn because of the of the number of words. And so what I would recommend to those who are viewing, listening in, or listening in later, watching later, is a lot of time I think the coaching is which is a which is a very exalted high end activity reserved exclusively for senior leaders and corporates. It's all that is humbug here. Coaching is really about anybody wanting to become better. Okay, so you can coach a 10-year-old. You can coach a 15-year-old, or somebody who wants to who's in 10th standard. I do a lot of coaching for children, especially because there are people, some students who are in 10th standard who suddenly have this doubt about what am I supposed to do after 10th. Okay, to help them manage that cobweb, navigate that dilemmas. They face tremendous pressures. Parents are telling you need to be this, and teachers are telling you need to do this, but he personally wants to do something. He personally, let's say, he wants to be a barber, but the parents say, what nonsense, yeah, how can you be a hairstylist? Okay, or the guy says, I want to be a gardener, and parents want him to be an ISRO scientist. There is a disconnect, and the poor guy, all of 15 years old, he doesn't know how to handle these questions from his parents, how to push back those pressures. Parents need to be given confidence that there is tremendous amount of opportunity in everything that you do. The idea is, can you be happy with whatever you're doing? Coaching is that. That's all coaching is. Helping people become better. And that's why I gave that analogy in my post. You have certain behaviors, you have certain dilemmas. If it's making you ineffective, it's making you less acceptable, if it's making you uncomfortable, resolve it. Okay, speak to anybody, and that's a coach. That's all it is. So I would invite everybody to embrace the concept of coaching far more freely than they're doing now. Resolve your dilemmas. Just get better at whatever you're doing. That's all you need to be.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Hari. And I don't know, it's how to actually, show my gratitude to you for this, because it's been such a tremendous session. Extremely important and critical pointers. You have cleared out a lot of queries and questions that normally which runs into our mind and which forms a kind of a shadow, and it's now very clear. It's very clear for me, and I'm very sure it's very clear for all the people, majority of the people who are viewing, and also for the people who would be watching once it is uploaded. Personally, I would like to thank you, and thanks a lot, viewers, for joining us this session. Have any questions, feel free to put it in the comment section, or you could also email it to me to contact vs@venkateshans.com. I would connect back with Hari Menon and forward the answers to you. In case if you're in need of specific coaching and if you want to talk to Hariprasad Menon and get some clarity on from your personal life or from your business aspects, you need a coaching, feel free to connect with me. I would actually, connect you with Hariprasad Menon and help you in getting that uh, coached. Thank you, friends. Thanks a lot for the session and for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you, Hari.
viewers, and
I'm
thank you, Venkat. I enjoyed this tremendously. I didn't realize the time go by. Thank you so much.
yeah, and I would request you to be online for a moment. We would actually go offline.
Yeah.